Now look at the description, look at the title, and do what it says. Now, Jesus is so kind to me, and God is so kind to me, and Allah is so kind to me, and singularity is so kind to me. And I know that I'm trying to do something here to help you, but I can't help you unless you are willing to help me. So, uh, on July 4th, which is the anniversary of my mother's birth, I'm going to have a party here at my apartment with all my friends. If you can't come in person, please email me or contact me or look. You'll probably be on this live if you can, one way or another. And I'm going to tell you, God is making clear to me. I understand where there's a huge treasure. And I'm looking for 12 friends. Real, sincere friends who are like me, who want to do what I want to do. And I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to be the poorest person in the world. One. And two, I want to go to heaven. And three, I want to enjoy this life fully. And four, I want you to think that I'm the nicest person you've ever known, and probably the nicest guy you could ever meet, or nicest person you could ever meet. Now I'm looking for who want to be because today than I did yesterday, and I'm learning more and more. And I don't always get it right, but I usually know what's going on inside of a person's being sincere and honest with himself. But the hardest thing in the world, it seems to be that humans can be honest with themselves. That seems to be. And God has allowed me to know many, many things and have experiences. And God has allowed you to have many, many experiences and know many, many things. But I've been interested in learning since I'm very, very young. And I've had to be able to take care of myself because, well, to all my information and look, I see that some bodies were still party here on the 4th of July to celebrate the anniversary. And I'm going to have that party here every day until then and every day after that. Anytime you want to come and have a party with me, show up. But make sure first before you show up if I'm here. I don't want you to I don't want you to come and then you're disappointed because I'm not here. And but whatever problem you have, whatever problem there is on the earth, there's a solution to it. And I'm getting a better understanding each day of what that solution is and how to use it. So please come and help me. If you're willing to help me, then I'm able to help you. I don't know what this is that's showing up here, but I'm glad you're showing up, whoever you are. And it says Lucifer. And Lucifer, I'll bet you one of my dollars that you don't know what it means. And I'm talking about my dollars. I have hundreds of millions of my dollars that I can share with anyone I'd like to share it with. But I'm only going to share them with my friends. And I know because I'm aware of where there's a huge treasure hidden, buried. And it's not buried, but it's right there in the open, and people go past it and they don't know it's there. But with the help of someone else, we're going to well, you don't know what either of those words mean. You do not know what Lucifer means, and you don't know what Satan means. You don't know where those words come from, and you've never met Lucifer, and you've never met Satan, and you've never met God. But you think you have, but that's okay. What did you do when you were in the 7th grade in the summer? So you should ask me. Well, I don't think Satan has any teeth, so I don't think Satan can chew anything, so I don't think he can be a Jew. But I am a liar. I lie every day. Do you lie? And I'm being honest, but you can't be honest about yourself. Anyone. In fact, you're in a very, very sad position. You're alone, and you think you're not, but you're not alone, but you think you are. And I don't know everything, and I'm not always correct at it, but I'm usually able to know things that people think another person shouldn't be able to know, because I've had a lot of experience doing it. And God likes you. God does not hate Lucifer or Satan. Lucifer was created by God through Jesus. Jesus participated in the creation of Lucifer. But Lucifer is not Satan. Lucifer became Satan. But you don't understand or know what Satan means. But if you want to know, ask me. And if you help me, I will help you. But I'm not going to help you if you don't help me. And you are helping me because you're watching. But I would like to be, for you to be my friend. Are you my friend? Oh, who are you the friend of? And who is your friend? Now, whoever you are, the Creator God, the entity that created you, wants you to be friends with that entity instead of with yourself. And the only one you're friends with is yourself. Or am I wrong? Nobody cares about you. Nobody helps you. Nobody likes you, you think. But someone does like you. You just refuse to receive that kindness from that somebody. You resist it. You resist it all day long and all night long. And all you have to do if you want to know the real truth about God is to ask God out loud. It goes like this. God, I don't even know if you exist, but if you exist, please teach me your truth, God, your truth, not my truth, not the idea about truth that other people. Well, that's not true at all. The Bible, you don't understand the Bible, and you've never read the Bible. Now, why would you have an opinion about a book and discuss it without ever having read it? Is that smart or is that stupid? What other book in the world would you talk about or have an opinion of without having read it? But you haven't read the Bible. And if you did read the Bible, you didn't believe what you're reading, or you don't even understand what you're reading, and you don't want to understand it. Now, what do you need? What do you really, really need? And what do you want? What do you really, really want? Because I have a friend. Listen, when I was 20 years old, I worked for a man. He was 97 years old. He had $400 million. Have you ever known anyone who had $400 million? Well, I worked for a man who had that much money. And his son had $600 million. His son was 68 and he hired me. To do what? To stay with his dad 24 hours a day, every day. Ended up doing it for 6 months. I made almost $100 a day. This was in 1974 or around then. You've never gotten to do that. And if you were my friend, I could tell you how to be successful in life. But you're not successful. You're trying to be, but you're going about it the wrong way. Now, tell me what you need. Now listen, I'll tell you what I need. I need someone who can help me because I don't know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing in the heavenly realm, but I don't know what I'm doing in this worldly realm. I know how to get this started, but you see, in a wheelchair. Are you in a wheelchair? And a year ago, I was blind, and I know a lot of things. I know so many things. You could ask me anything you want, and I probably know something about it. I might not, because there's things I don't know anything about, and there's things that I don't know everything about. But there's there's nothing that I know. The Talmud? Well, what's the Talmud? Do you know what is the Talmud? I've read the Talmud, and I've read the Bible, and I read the Book of Mormon, and I read the Quran, and I read, I know, I haven't read all of it, but I know what the Vedas say. I read most of them, the ones I could understand. I don't know every religion in the world, but I know most of them. I know what religion you're following, and you don't even know the name of it. And I do, because you are following a religion. You don't realize, you don't know the name of the religion you're following. You couldn't tell me what it is. I don't think. I could be wrong. I'll tell you one thing I know about myself. I know how to be wrong. And I always do things wrong. And it's my fault. It's no one else's fault. I go to pick something up and I drop it. You know, my life has given me wonderful, wonderful blessings. And often the blessings are right next to my life, and I didn't even know they were there. But I'll tell you, the son of the person I worked for when I was about 20, who had $600 million, his sister had close to $1 billion then, although at that time there really weren't anyone that were billionaires. Money has changed since then. But there were some, but no one knew who they were. Well, we knew it's very hard to know exactly how much money people have. But I had asked the God that I worship, my God, to have me meet a very wealthy person and to learn everything about their life. And I made a foolish mistake. I said, oh, I don't want any money. I just want to learn about how their life is. Now, that was foolish, because I should have asked for money, because I could have gotten it. And but I did. There is a treasure that was left to me. And I know where there's a lot of valuable things. And the problem I have is I can't get to them because I don't have a friend. The friends I have, terrible friends. They think they're my friend, but they don't do the things that a person does if they're your friend. And they really don't have any time for me. They have time for lots of things, but not for me. Now, I'm very fortunate because the only thing I have is time. I am the poorest person that I know. I don't want to steal any treasure. I don't want the treasure. Sir, I can live the rest of my life without spending a dime. I mean, I don't need to make I live better than anybody I know. I have the best life. I don't have to work. I don't have to do anything. I can if I want to, but when I work, I do it as a volunteer. And I let other people benefit from my work. See, my goal in life is to be the kindest person I could possibly be, and to be the poorest person I could possibly be, and to help others. That's my goal. It's been my goal since I'm 3 years old. Well, why should I tell you? And I can tell you this. You don't need me to tell you where it is for you to find it. But you're just interested in yourself. You're not interested in anyone else. Or am I wrong? I don't know how to use this phone. I don't have a computer here set up that I can use. I don't know anyone that would come here to help me who wouldn't try to steal from me while they're helping me. And I don't want anyone to steal from me, because nobody has to steal from me. And the things that are in this apartment, they don't belong to me. So I can't really give them to anyone without getting permission of the owner of them to give them. Do you know what a bailment is? That's a legal term. Do you know what a bailment is? That's when someone gives you something and you're responsible for it, and you're going to keep it safe for them until they come and get it back. And almost everything in this apartment, I'm holding for someone else who needs me to hold it for them, because they don't have a place where they can put it where it will be safe. And it might not be safe here because people have broken into this apartment and stolen things, and they can. So the purpose of my life is to help other persons. Now tell me, are you a liar? I'm a liar. I have stolen things in my life. I'm not admitting to any crime. I'm I'm acting, but I'm not acting. Listen, I'll tell you something. Now listen, what I love to do and what I've done all my life is write jokes and make people laugh. What I want to do is intentionally, purposefully entertain you so that you will laugh and be happy and be glad that I entertained you. That's what I want to do. And I've done it my whole life. I'll tell you something else I've done. I've helped persons who were homeless get out of being homeless and go on with a great life. And I hope they're having a great life. I showed them how to do it. And I started them off, and I helped them until it was time for me to help another person. And by that time, if they would start doing what I showed them and listening to what I shared with them, they would never have to be homeless again. I can tell you 15 ways that you can do things and become very wealthy. But I don't believe that anyone should use tobacco for any purpose. I don't believe that. I have a reason why. And I'm not going to help someone who uses tobacco, because then I'll be doing something that I don't think I should do. And I don't like to help anyone to use alcohol. And I have a personal reason why I don't like that. I don't like alcohol. I dislike it. And I don't want to help anybody who's going to buy alcohol or give money to someone and they're going to use it for alcohol. I don't like that. And I have very particular opinions about who a person should have sex with and who they shouldn't. And people have falsely accused me of things that I would never do, would never want to do, would never think to do. And if I had the right to do it, I would probably shoot the people that do it. But I don't have a right to shoot anyone. I don't believe in violence. I'm a pacifist. But I'm my own kind of pacifist. I'm not other people's kinds of pacifist. I don't like to go with the crowd. I don't like to do anything just because some other people do it. I sometimes do, but I don't like to. And I like to find out what the truth is, the real truth. Now, that takes a lot of asking and thinking and considering and examining and comparing. But my life has afforded me the opportunity to do that. And I have done it. Have you ever been to college? How much schooling do you have? Forget about schooling. How much education do you have? Well, I can ask you questions that you cannot answer. And I enjoy being with persons. Well, I like persons. Well, you say you had no school. I don't know if you have a computer. I don't have a computer. I have one, but I can't set it up and use it because I'm in a wheelchair and I can't stand up. Well, I can stand up, but I can't function. So, it looks like you speak English and you can write English. So you must have had some education. Who taught you how to write? How did you learn to write and to read? Well, there's a description that goes with this, whatever I'm doing here. And I have a YouTube channel. You can go on my YouTube channel and you can see what I've been making in YouTube for the last 3 years. Your mother taught you how to write and read? Or are you just saying that without really thinking? Well, let me ask you a better question. Do you know how to speak English? Can you speak English? Is English your first language? Or did your first language another first language? Well, I love to know people who have different ideas than I have. I don't like to be around people who agree with me about everything because I can't learn anything new from those persons. I can only learn new things from someone who doesn't agree with me. Okay, you came from England? So now, listen to this question. And before you answer, think and see if you're smart enough to answer this question truthfully. My name is Richard. What's your name? And this is the question. Who taught you how to speak English? Do you realize the true answer to that question? Most persons do not get it that right. Are you in England now? I had a friend in England. All right, well, that's an interesting answer. But in order to learn something, doesn't someone have to doesn't someone have to teach it to you? I have a problem that very few people, I'll tell you, I cannot catch a ball. You know why? Because nobody would teach me how to catch a ball all the time I was growing up. No one even took the interest of the time to play with me. So I couldn't, and I tried to teach myself how to catch a ball, and throw a ball, but I couldn't do it. I did try, but I didn't succeed. And so I did other things that I found I could do. But everyone did not teach you how to speak English. But there is someone who did teach you how to speak English. And even though I wasn't there, I know who that person is. And oh, well, now that's an intelligent answer. So who taught you how to speak English? Well, let's go a different way. How old were you when you started speaking English? Well, I know how old you were, or I have some idea. Did you ever, I don't know where you live, and I don't have to know, but did you ever go to kindergarten or nursery school or preschool? Did you ever talk to someone when you were 2 or 3 at all? I'm going to think that you probably did. Maybe you didn't have much of a conversation with them, but well, that's the problem. If you can't figure that out, then what makes you think you're so smart that you can understand who Lucifer is or Satan or the Bible without reading? How can you possibly think that you know anything about the Bible without reading it first? How come the only book in the whole world that people have an opinion of and will give you their opinion of it without having read it is the Bible? Do you know of any other book? They won't do that with the Quran. They won't do it with any book except the Bible. And I read the Bible. How old were you when you read the Bible? Well, I was 11 when I read it. And I read the whole Bible from the beginning to the end when I was 11. You know how long it takes to read the Bible? I do, because I did it many times. And I kept track of how long it took me to read it. So I know. And there's another way I know, because I know how to cheat. Bills, how many? You have a pile of dollar bills, a stack of them. How do you know how many are there? You have to count them, right? Well, I know other ways to tell how many are there without counting them. Well, I do. And I could be off a dollar or two using my way, but so can you. Say you had $30,000 bills, individual dollar bills. I know how to tell how many are there without counting them. Do you? I'm not going to tell you how I know. But I'll tell you what I am enjoying is starting to have a little bit of a decent education with you. Not education, conversation with you. So now, teach me something, whoever you are. Help me. Tell me something you know that I don't know, that I can add to what I know and remember it so I can help somebody else with it. You say that, I don't know, from what I've seen you write on this thing, and I didn't know anyone, I don't even know what I'm doing. I get an idea that you think something good about Lucifer. Ha ha, that's a joke. That's an absolute joke. And you are a how do you know that the Jews control these things that you say? How do you know that? Apparently, you convinced you know something. Well, how do you know it? Tell me, explain it to me, so I can learn something new. I'm not lying to you that I was around 20 and I was paid by a 68-year-old man who had $600 million. That's using today's standard of money. He may have had less when I worked for him, but today you would say he had $600 million. And his father had $400 million. And his sister had, she lived next door to the Kennedys in Nantucket. Where is Nantucket? Is it in Rhode Island or Massachusetts? Ah, I do know this. I know that the man who I work for, who was 97, before I worked for him, he had owned a bank. He owned a bank. And I know that no Jews controlled the bank he owned. I know pretty much the history of that bank. I know the man. I lived with him for 6. Well, but you haven't. Let's look at what you wrote. Look at it and see how many errors are in what you wrote. You, first of all, you use the word everyone. And you don't even know anybody who owns a bank, do you? Well, I know 3 persons who own banks. I'll tell you, you ever heard of Mr. Rockefeller? John D. Rockefeller? Did you ever heard of David Rockefeller, who just died 2 years ago? Well, who told you about the Rothschilds? Which Rothschild do you know personally? You say you're from England. Now, my mother may have lied to me, but she didn't lie to me. My mother was personal friends with the Queen of England. Do you know the Queen of England? Do you know how I can get in touch with her? Because I've been trying to get an opportunity to let her know that her friend, my mother, died. And I haven't been able to do it because when my mother died, I was blind. I went blind 2 days after she died. I couldn't even tell a friend that I had that my mother died. I couldn't see my phone. I can see it now. But I'll tell you, you worship Satan. Don't you realize that? Or do you? I'm a liar. Are you a liar? I am a thief. I don't hope I haven't stolen anything, but I'm a thief. Are you a thief? I'm trying not to be self-righteous. Are you self-righteous? The Bible, but who told you that? You're saying something. Don't you understand that when you stand in front of God in judgment, the first question God's going to ask you is, what makes you think you're so smart that you say things that aren't true? Or maybe God will say, why didn't you read my book and ask me to explain it to you? Or maybe God will say, if you want to know about truth, why don't you ask God? God will say, why don't you ask me? Meaning God is saying, why don't you ask God? You've never asked God anything, have you? Tell me what you've asked God. Have you ever seen God? One problem you have, and I have the same. Well, if what does that mean? Can't you form a monopoly if you want to? So you're upset that someone else is doing something that you have an equal right to do as what they do, but you won't bother to do it? Have you ever been in a temple or in a synagogue? Have you ever heard in the Bible it says to honor your father and mother, and it will be well with thee, and thy days will be long upon the earth? Do you know even the 10 Commandments? Do you understand anything about the Bible? What's a synagogue? What's a synagogue mean? What does the word church mean? What does the word Satan mean? Oh, God was very kind to me, or I was kind to myself, because when I was 8 years old, I read the dictionary. Have you ever read the dictionary? Do you know anything about dictionaries? Why, I have a friend, he's dead now, well, dead physically, but he's not dead permanently. He was a genius, and he spoke 137 languages fluently, and he translated Bibles. And he was a friend of mine. Let me ask you, have you ever known anyone who's eaten human flesh? Do you know anyone who's a cannibal? Who do you know that's a cannibal? Or yes to what? See, I don't know what you're saying yes to, but that's okay. Listen, uh, what do you need and what do you want? Do you have nothing to do with your time, so you're just talking to me? I'm glad you are. God put me here on this earth to help you, and I'll help you. For you probably think I can help you. You won't believe it. So, what's the solution to these problems that you talk about? Do you have any idea, or is it hopeless? What do you know? And do you realize that the earth has billions of people living on it? And each one of them knows something different than each other one. And many of them know the same things, but some of them know different things. But there's something you know that I would like to know. And I don't know what it is, because there you are. Listen, I'm I'm being honest with you. Who are you honest with? I'll tell you who I lie to every day since I'm a child. It's myself. I lie to myself. And I think I know everything, or I know everything about something when I don't really know anything about much. I know a few things. The things I know are the things that in my life I have had the experience of them. Those things I know. And one experience I had is I, at 11 years old, read the entire Bible. It took me 70 hours in about 2 months' time to do. So I was 11. I read the whole Bible, the entire Bible. Um, one of the English versions. I won't even tell you which one, because that in itself is a story. Which Bible have you which Bible have you read from the beginning to the end? And I'll tell you what happened to me. I read the entire Bible through, and I had been in, well, see, you won't like me, because my ancestors are Christians and Jews and Muslims. Nothing to do with that. I don't believe I got to pick who my ancestors are, or where I would be born, or when, or to whom. I have no idea what they believe. See, I read, and the same person taught me about God, who it was. and someone taught you to speak, but you don't know who it was. You might get there. I'll tell you how you can follow, because no human being you know has ever seen God. Who's going to tell you about God or anything else about it? They don't know what they're talking about, and you believe them. Or I don't know. I don't know how you know what you know, but I've got movies in this apartment, and I've got probably the equivalent of an entire library. When I say that, I mean I've got in physical form books that cover this pretty well the spectrum of life. And I don't have everything, but I have almost everything. I know how to do things you don't know how to do. I get colds. I've had colds in my life, but pretty well today I know what to do. And if a person does it, they'll never get a cold. Now, sometimes I don't do it, and then I get a cold. I have a half cold right now because I'm not doing what I know how to do. But there are many, many things I know about. And there's a lot of things I don't know about. But the things that what I try to do is realize which things I know based on fact and which things I think I know, which are based on opinions of other persons who don't know what they're talking about. And most of us hear something and we agree with it. Well, we don't check it out to see if it's true or if it's not true. Now, I had the experience. That's not true. So who wants to live to 150 years? I don't want to be 150. I'll tell you, we're not going to do it. My great-grandfather lived to 115, and he working, driving an old tractor, and he got too close to the ditch, fell over, and the pipe on the tractor went through his body and killed him. But he was 115. That's what my mother told me about my father's grandfather, who I'm named after. Now, if that story is true or not, I don't really know, because I wasn't there when it happened. But the Bible says to honor your father and mother. It doesn't say honor your mother and father, which you think it says. It says to honor your father and mother. And there's meaning behind that, but you probably don't know what it is. And I'll tell you, I know what that means, but I don't do it. And you can't tell me something. You can't tell me what the word honor means. And if you're from London or from England, you have a closer chance of knowing what it means than most Americans do. But a university is a school to which you can go and learn anything you want to learn about the universe. That's why they call it a university. That's why some places are colleges rather than universities. Every university has many colleges. You probably don't know what the word college means. I know what the word college means because I own a college. Well, that's a strange statement, but I do. And I have a very, very different viewpoint of things than you do. And I'm weird, or I'm odd, or I'm strange, or I'm peculiar. You can't possibly deal with me without wanting to kill me, without hating me. You can't. And I can't possibly deal with other human beings without hating them and wanting to kill them. That's a fact. Or maybe I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I would love for anyone to teach me that I'm wrong, but not based on opinions and prejudices and biases and pride, but based on facts. And what's the highest grade you ever, well, you said you didn't go to school, so this is confusing. Are you very, very wealthy? Do you have millions and millions of dollars? And you are I don't know. I don't know you, and I don't need to know you. I mean, I would love to. If you were a person that was kind and cared about other human beings and wanted to help them, and you were honest with yourself about yourself, and you knew the difference between opinion and fact, I would love to have you help me, and I'll help you. But anyone who's come to help me, well, they're helping me, they steal from me. And I have the problem that I don't put myself first. And everybody that I know does. I haven't been putting myself first since I'm 3 years old. Well, I haven't. And there's a few times when I may have put myself first, but I didn't realize I was doing that. It wasn't what I was trying to do. I was trying to serve someone else and let them feel served and let them feel that God was kind and that somehow or another, some of the kindness of God was getting through to them. Have you ever read any of the Bible at all? Who told you about the Bible and how it was written? I'll tell you who told me. Well, either one of two things happened. Either God helped me understand in my mind truth that comes from God, or I've invented and created a new religion. And I'll tell you what, either way doesn't matter, because what I believe, I'm not going to hold this part if it's tired. I don't have anyone to hold the camera. I made a television show 13 years in my life in the cable in New York City. I wasn't allowed to make a dime. I didn't make a thing. It cost me money to make it. And I wasn't allowed to make anything. I worked my whole life making people laugh. And I wasn't allowed to make money. I worked for 13 other different years in New York City, serving the city and the people, making them laugh. And it was against the law for me to get paid for doing it. I had to go down there and pay the people so I could make them laugh. It's the truth. Or if it's not, it's the best I can come to understanding it. I have two personal friends who are cannibals. I know them. Now, the one of them may be dead. I haven't seen either of them for years. But I knew the both of them, and they were my friends. They really were my friends. And I was a friend to them. And they were both born in villages, in places in the world where the people were cannibals. And before they were 5, their mother had fed them human flesh. And if drinking a child's blood can make a person live to 150, there'd be a lot of people in the world living to 150, because you don't know how many people there are on the earth who drink child's blood, do you? You don't know one person on the earth who's drink child's blood. I know 2. I know them. I personally met them, shook their hands, and learned lots of things from them about. I didn't meet them together, and they were from, never knew each other, but I knew both of them. And I asked them questions. And I could tell from the way they answered the questions that they were worshiping the same false god, even though they didn't know each other. If I don't know everything. I don't know anything. But let me ask you this. What's the highest grade you ever got in school? Well, you say you went to no school, but were you telling me the truth? Or you just saying, I mean, people, you know what people do to me? They see me in a wheelchair pushing myself along on the street, and they say to me, how are you? They expect me to say that I'm fine. Now, how stupid and ludicrous could anybody be to see someone in a wheelchair and not realize that they're not fine, and that being polite to them and ask them how they are is an ungodly thing to do, not a godly thing to do. Tell me what a godly thing to do is and what is an ungodly thing, in your opinion. Apparently, in your opinion, godliness is hating Jews. You hate Jews. Well, who taught you to hate them? How many Jews do you know? How many? Well, you don't understand what the word sin means, and you don't understand about sin. You have prejudices, preconceived ideas about God that you learned from other human beings because you didn't bother to go find them out from God. Now, I have preconceived ideas that I learned from human beings. But at around the age of 11, I divorced myself of those preconceived ideas, because once I read the Bible once through, and I was 11 and 2 months, I may be a little off on the dates. And I'm not good at remembering specific things. I'm very good at remembering concepts. I get concepts real good. And then I'm poor sometimes at expressing them because my language skills are not that good. But you see, why is there more than one human being existing on the earth? And when I finish, well, is that your opinion or someone else's opinion? Why are you scared to death? Millions and millions of people have gone into war knowing they would die and died in the war. And they were scared, but they went into the war, I think. See, dear God, help me to do this well so that the result of what I'm doing somehow benefits this person, whoever this person is. Could be you, God, talking to me through a human being and teaching me something. But I won't. You know, I've prayed for people in my lifetime who, after I prayed for them, the health problem they had ended. They didn't die. They went out the health problem. I'll tell you, both of my friends who were cannibals were also witch doctors. They were actual witch doctors when they, well, the one of them was, both of them had people come there and teach them other ideas, and they forsook their idea, realized they wanted to be right, and left what they were doing and went to something new. And in the middle of the jungle, each of them learned pretty much the same thing I learned when I was 11 reading the Bible. And they learned what they learned for the same reason I learned what I learned, which is the same reason why most people, if not everyone, learns to speak to begin with. So, you know, you got to look at things. You got to look at them more than one way because you won't see them. How many sides does a coin have? Most people say 2, but I'm smarter than them. So I say, well, there's 3. Where? Well, there's heads, tails, and there's an edge. There's 3 sides. But someone smarter than that will say, well, no, there's 6 sides to a coin. A round coin has 6 sides. How does it have that? Well, it has the heads and tails, inside, the outside, and the other side. Let me ask you, ever read Milton Friedman? Do you even know who Milton is? I forget if it's Friedman or Freeman. You know who he is or was? He died. He was very, very smart man. Do you know the highest grade I ever got in school was 107? And I got an actual report card. It was either in the 8th, it was in my junior high school year, 7th, 8th, remember which exactly. but I think it was in the 9th grade. And the teacher gave me 107 because when we got our science textbook, it looked good. It was really impressive. I took it home and I read it. I read the whole thing from the beginning to the end. It took me about 3 weeks. And I noticed 6 errors in the book, 6 mistakes, 6 things that the book taught as science that I knew were not science. They were just opinion expressed of science. But the science book expressed them as if they were facts. And I don't know if I wrote a paper or I told the teacher, but I said, hey, there are 6 errors in this book. And it took the teacher a while to give me a written response or a verbal response where he explained, or she, who explained to me why I was wrong when I was saying the book was wrong. So I took track of what he said, and I spent some time, and I looked at it and thought about it and asked God. At least I thought I was asking God. And then I gave him reasons why his explanations were not correct. So then he, after a while, responded to that, and I responded to that. And by the time we got to the end of the year, he realized that I hadn't been lying to him, that I was telling him truth. Not the truth, but truth. And he realized that, and what's interesting is some of the lies in that textbook had been proven lies 50 years before the textbook was printed. But the scientists who call themselves scientists, if they like a lie and they get proven to them it's not true, they will just keep liking the lie and telling it to other people, and they're liars. And so I'll tell you, I don't know how old you are, but most textbooks, most science textbooks, still have most of those lies in them today. And it's been 50 years. Oh, I don't know, I was 12 or 13. It's been 50 years. And they know they're lies, but they don't take them out of the textbook. And the Rothschilds have nothing to do with it, and the Jews have nothing to do with it. But Milton Friedman, if you understand his point of life, you might pick up why it happens. I do. And I'll tell you something else. I had an advice. My mother's cell. A 200-year-old was really, really hard to use because it was Latin. And I know them, but I had looked through them already before I even got into grade. And I had other experiences. I could see that the way that they were telling me something that wasn't true. They showed these things and then they explained them. I realized that they didn't understand what they were explaining. Religions, they are, in my opinion, and I could be wrong. You could have a different opinion. In science, they presume nobody knows anything, and we have to figure it all out ourselves. And then they say that shows that your conclusion is true, and it's true that everybody who would do that takes most of what's in most science books and puts it into the realm of fiction. And the first chapter in all of those textbooks, the 200-year-old one, the 100-year-old one, and the one I had in 50 years, they said, so many years ago, we used to think scientists used to, and now we've learned new things, and we know that they didn't know what they were talking about. They were wrong. Now, because information, the real facts, we know that such and such is true. This is what's true. But guess what? I know, I could predict, I could tell you what the textbook is going to say 50 years from now in the first chapter, because all the first chapters were the same. All said that used to be the experts, the scientists, and they know what they were talking about, don't know it any longer. They were wrong. So what they said wasn't true. Whether they thought it was true or not, if it's a lie, it's a lie. And what you think about it doesn't make a difference. On the other hand, every math book, and so science is a religion based on the idea that we don't know anything. There's no basic answer that we all can rely on. And we're just going to keep learning new things as time goes forward and the truth, unless time stops. I mean, philosophically and intelligently. Well, I'll tell you. Tell me where the first Hollywood basic answer that we all can rely on. And we're just going to keep learning new things as time goes forward. And we'll never really know the truth unless time stops. I mean, philosophically and intelligently. Well, I'll tell you. Tell me where the first Hollywood was in the United States. I'll talk to you about that. I know where it was. I lived there. I know people who lived there. But see, science is a religion based on the idea that nobody knows a chapter in every textbook ever going to be written in the future, if they get to be written, is going to say the same thing. Years ago, the scientists thought they knew what they were talking about, but now we know they proved it to be true. And the problem is that most of what they have today, even DNA, most of it's a lie. DNA can't tell you half the things that you think it can tell you because you've been told it. You have no idea what genetics mean, what genetics is in you. Science is a religion where you have to. Science is a religion where you have to. The teacher took the piece of chalk and put a dot on the board and says, this represents the idea of a point. And then he said, well, we can actually prove that this point exists, that we are believing by blind faith. And it could be a circular reasoning thing because of the fact that we're using something to prove itself. In fact, you have to do it. And math is based on blind faith in a religious idea. And science is based on science, belief, a blind religious belief. But the true religion on the earth, God's religion, does not require you to be worshiping Satan or God's enemy. And that's what Satan means. Satan is a Hebrew word. Took Hebrew and went to synagogue, you would never know what the word Satan means. Most of the people and most of the fact that I am re-explaining to you God. But if you understand the Torah and the Bible, it makes it very clear that few human beings will ever see God and live. And you have to have a broad, open mind and know a lot of little facts in order to understand everything. You've got to know that there is such a thing as a point, and it does exist, even though it's just a figment of our imagination. All of math is based on figments of our imagination. And the Bible clearly teaches, if you read it and listen to what it says, that the human heart has an imagination that has nothing to do with God. And that this makes God sad. You make God sad because God wants you to consider God, that God is your best friend and your only friend. And the only thing God wants from you is for you to think that God realizes that that's what God wants you to be, his best friend or her best friend. God wants you to be God's best friend, and you're not willing to do it. Well, you asked me what I think about it. I can't see what you just said. I don't know how to make it come back on here, but you can't understand the New World Order if you don't understand the Old World Order. What does the word new mean? That what are the mistakes that you're basing what you know on that you think are true when they're not true at all? Why are you have a false religion instead of having a true one? You know what the Bible says religion is? True religion is? It says that true religion is people helping the fatherless and the husbandless. That's what it says it is. In fact, it does. The statement is in the Bible. It's not in the Old Testament of the American Bible. It's about the New World Order and the Illuminati. Georgia Guidestones. Well, let me ask you a question. Tell me about Yahs. What is Yahs? I don't know who you are, and I don't have to know. But I know what was told that I met him when I was 2 for about 15 minutes. Other than you didn't meet him, did you? I'm told he gave me a truck. If it's true, it's the only thing. Well, that's not true. See, it's so easy for me to lie. I'm a liar. It's so easy for you to lie. You're a liar. Ourselves talking about. I'd like to know what I'm doing. Then maybe I could learn something new. And if you can show me what you know that's new, that's real, that's true, that'll inform me and help me to get better. But what is yours? Can you even know how to spell it? Well, to me, going on in the world, and there's a lot of liars who think they're telling the truth, and they're not. There's a whole lot of human beings who care only about themselves and what's important to them, and don't care about what's important to some poor slob who's dying somewhere on the other side of the earth, who is in pain, and they don't even have an aspirin. The world is complicated, and life is complicated, but God is very simple. God is a point. No, God is real. Everything that exists that was created by God. But God's not alone. To understand God is easy for any human being to do if they really want to understand God. That's why I hate you. That's why because I hate God. What does the word mean? Now, I have an email address, richardpaulhobbs@gmail.com. I have a church, pretty new, but it's one of them. Was around before the very first thing was created, and it will be around until after the very last thing that was created. Well, time exists, but God created time, and God created time through God's voice. But you don't know what God's voice is because you haven't asked God. You've asked one very simple thing that I did. I was 11 years old. I read the whole Bible. I didn't understand it. And I thought to myself, well, it took 70 hours to read it. It's a big book. I had known a lot of the stories in the Bible before, but I never read them all in sequence. And there were many stories I'd never heard. And there are some stories that even today I don't understand how it makes any sense for those to be. But that's not the Bible's fault, and that's not God's fault. That's me. Because I'm too stupid to learn what they are if I'm interested in learning them. And I'll tell you who taught you how to English. You say your name. Say your name. Oh, whatever you just said, that's the name of the person who taught you how to speak English or whatever language you speak. You taught yourself how to speak it. And how old were you when you taught yourself how to do that? Well, you were one. So if you were one and you were teaching yourself how to talk, you must have been, you were teaching yourself a foreign, you were one. You must have been pretty smart. And who made you so smart? How did you get so smart? Well, then, and I'll say, well, I guess you're not that smart after all. Ha. But human beings, most of us, can't even hear a question when we ask it. Well, let me ask you a question. What does the word Christ mean? What is your name? Just tell me, don't write it. Then that's who taught you to speak. You taught yourself to speak when you were one. You were a genius. You taught yourself a foreign language. But you mustn't be too much of a genius, because I'm asking you who taught you how to, and you can't figure it out. And you were there. Well, you're using a lot of words that you never looked up in the dictionary. You don't even understand where words come from or how they exist or why they exist in the English language. Just to write dictionaries. And people get paid to write. Know that? Why don't you go find one? You know, a dictionary has many people who write the dictionary. How do you read a dictionary? How come when I was 8 years old, I read the dictionary and you didn't? I'm not smarter than you are. I'm not better than you are. But I wanted to understand it. I asked her to help me, and she had me read the dictionary. She explained it to me. You don't have to read anything. It can be explained to you. But just because something is explained to you, that doesn't mean it's true. You need to challenge it and compare it to other things and learn the truth. You're smart enough to learn the truth. You don't need anyone else to teach you. But you do need other people to teach you, because we all learn things by learning other human beings. Or we dream them up in our own heart, our own mind. Very few of us do that very effectively. There aren't too many new ideas in the world. What does the word new mean? And where does it come from? Well, you are self-deceived, friend, and you're deceived by your friends. But the person who has you deceived is the enemy of God. Who's your enemy? Who you think is your friend, because you don't have God as your friend. You may think God's your friend, but God doesn't think you're God's friend. You don't even know what the word Christ means, do you? What does it mean? What does it mean, and where does it come from? Tell me, I'll listen. Don't know. Or what you're going to do is start trying to figure it out in your own mind, and then tell me what you think it means. Without going to any facts, without finding anything out, you're just going to give me the answer. And the people who you're listening to are doing the same thing to you. And you know what they're doing? They're making money off of you. And they're not Jews. The problem is that people want to use religion and government and communication to get rich off of other people. Well, how do you know? Were you there? Did you see it? Did you hear it? Do you know anything about it? And you haven't even read the Bible. You don't even know what the word Jews means. You never looked in the dictionary. You never read anything to learn anything for yourself. You learned how to speak. You taught yourself, but you had a lot of resources around. What's the difference between high school and college? No, you think they wrote the Bible because you don't know anything about the Bible. God didn't explain anything to me, but I read the Bible and I investigated it and I checked it out and I questioned what I was reading. I didn't question it skeptically that I wanted to disprove it. I questioned it because I know that truth will prove itself if you test it accurately and correctly. If you do something correctly, it'll prove itself to be true if it's true. And truth doesn't change. Truth is always truth. Now, I would call myself one of two things if you ask me. Either a clown, which is what I am, a comedian, an entertainer, or I would call myself a theoretical physicist. Yeah, but that's your opinion. There's no such thing as common knowledge that the Jews wrote the Bible. Common knowledge is incorrect. If you want to know who wrote the Bible, why don't you open your mouth and out loud say, God, if you exist, please help me to understand your truth from your point of view, instead of the truth of human beings from a human being's point of view. Now, I have an idea that if you do that, God's own self will teach you God's truth. Now, whether you'll receive it or not, the fact is that human beings hate God and they're liars. I can tell you a lie and you will believe it. And if I tell you the truth, you will not believe it. That's because you're a human. And humans don't like to know the truth because they're dishonest. What does the word sin mean? What does it really mean? Not how is it used commonly today. What idea does the concept of sin represent as it's used from God's point of view? Well, here's the thing. I have ideas that I think are the right answer, but I've been having the church that I belong to for about 45 years. Screwed. I don't like to use those kind of words. I like to use kind words and polite words, but I don't like to lie. Well, I don't know where you're getting those ideas from, but you weren't there. You weren't there. You don't know what happened. God was there, and human beings were there. And some of those human beings wrote down what was there, but they just wrote down what they saw or understood of what was there. What is true is the truth, and it hasn't changed. And let me ask you a question. What did you do in the summertime when you should have been in the 7th grade? You said you didn't go to school. You had no school. Were you telling the truth or were you lying? Or were you just saying something without saying all of the truth? You know, they have this idea, you go in the court, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But you don't swear not to deceive people, do you? You know how many ways I could deceive people with the truth? Well, there's a lot of ways. I don't want to deceive anyone. I want to stop deceiving myself. And I am deceiving myself. I'm deceiving myself. That's what I'm doing. The Jews used the practice of lending money at excessive interest rates. This has, for centuries, caused, well, I can't read the rest of it. Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just repeating that. You didn't hear that from anyone who knows if it's true or not. How many bankers do you know? The Rockefellers. I know Rockefellers. I know more about the Rockefeller family than probably any person living on the earth today. I might not know, but I probably do. And I can tell you why if you ask me. Well, Merry Christmas, Turbo Jones. Merry Christmas. But what What does Christ mean? And Happy New Year. You know when New Year's is? I know when New Year's actually is. Few people do any longer today. And when I say actually is, well, what I mean is I know traditionally when New Year's was celebrated. I don't know why, but I think I know why. I can tell you this, January 1st is not New Year's. It has never been New Year's. It never will be New Year's. Human beings are liars. We like to deceive ourselves. That's the problem. That's the problem God has, because if God would do something good for a human being, the human being wouldn't appreciate it. And God, the creator God, the true God, we do. We live and exist within time. But time is well, those are all general statements. Please. The first thing I have to say is that I could be wrong. And I'm looking for the truth, not looking to be the one who knows everything. You asked about the Pharisees. Well, I've read the Bible. I've read Josephus. I've read Philos, parts of it. First time I read the Bible, I read it 3 times with 11. The first time I didn't understand it. I was going to put it up and forget it, and I said, nah, it's a big book, took 70 hours to read it. I better read it again. It took me 2 months, 70 hours over 2 months. So I read it again, 70 hours over 2 months. And that time I did something different. I was only 11. It was only 11. So I said to myself, I didn't say anything. I said, dear God, I don't even know if you exist. I'm only 11. I don't know anything. I hear people telling me one set of ideas, other people telling me other sets of ideas. I realized I was having an idea about you formed in me without really about the Bible, what it is, without ever reading the Bible. So I went home from church, the Bible discussion at church that day, a progressive conservative church. And I said, Richard, time for you to read the Bible, find out what it says, and then form an opinion of it, instead of having other people form the opinion for you. And I did. I went home and read it. And I read it through. I didn't understand it. Second time through, I said, God, if you exist, and if there's some point to this book, the problem was that after I read the entire Bible, I couldn't understand what the point of it was. It was not clear. You read any book, and you expect when you're done to say, oh, Bible, I couldn't figure it out. There were lots of little points through it, but there wasn't it wasn't clear to me what the message of the Bible was. So I read it a second time, and I asked God, make it clear to me. Help me understand it. If you want me to understand it, help me to divorce myself from prejudices and preconceived ideas about the Bible, and help me to learn, if it's possible, if you're willing for human beings to know anything about you, then help me to understand it as I read this book a second time through. And I read it a second time through. 70 hours from beginning to end, took me 2 months, and it happened to me like this. When I got to the Gospel of John, the first chapter and the 12th verse, I saw something that I saw many things all over, but something registered with me. It said, and I'm paraphrasing, to write to become the children of God. Now that was 52 years ago, around about. And we had been being told by others, adults, in both the church and the synagogue, which I went to both of them, and I didn't go to mosque. I would have if I had someone to take me, if I knew where one was. But we have been told that we're all God's children. And that's a concept that's very popular in the United States and in the world today. We're all God's children. Probably the United Nations is based on that basic idea. But Judaism hates you. You're very wrong. You don't even know what Judaism means or what Judaism is. But keep making your I don't understand the point of what you're doing. You keep telling me things that you think are true, but they're all based. You learned them in you for God, and God loves you. But it doesn't do God any good to love you, do any good. And that's the problem God has. So Satan wants you to hate God, and you do hate God, and Satan wants you to hate Jews, and you hate Jews. So guess who Egyptians got was the punishment that Pharaoh proclaimed with his mouth in his hatred for God. I didn't get to read what was just there, and I don't know how to use this. If someone knows how to use this, they're welcome to teach me. But you have to understand. You don't have to understand anything. The concepts of God are far from our mind. The most amazing thing about the Old Testament is how the Jews were self-deprecating even in ancient times. Well, you don't know that. You don't know what you're talking about. I barely know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to find out that speak truth. And I realize that I have the same problem you have. God loves me and I hate God. There isn't a human being on the earth who doesn't have a hatred for God implanted in their being the minute they're born. Hated Paul, not Jesus. How could the Talmud teach anyone to do that? 2,000 years in human form before Jesus was even born. In the future, God only has now. When Moses talked to God, God is. God isn't going to be, and he was been, he is. And I can't say that anymore. So I have to say God is. Satan controls human beings because human beings worship Satan. And if human beings will worship God, that will please God. Because God created human beings for God's good pleasure. And God doesn't need you to worship God because it does some good for God. God needs you to worship God because God's trying to do good for you and Satan's trying to destroy you. And as long as you serve is a picture, did what had to be done before anything was created, before time was created. God, if God did the creation that God was doing, and God had a dilemma. And someone happened that we humans today that are in this, which may be the only existence, is to really solve problems. And if you want the problem solved, you've got to go to the Creator God. But there's a lesson. And you know everything there is to know about God, but you're refusing. Don't resist the grace of God, whereby a root of bitterness springs up. You don't have it any less. You can receive the goodness of God and the kindness of God from God and enjoy. The only friend you have, is God, God's own self. But you won't be a friend to God. You'll be a friend to yourself and to humans. But you won't be a friend to God. Why? Come to my party on July 4th at my house. Learn about me. I don't know you except for you to become a friend of mine. And I'll know you're my friend when you're willing to put Jesus first, or Yeshua first, or Joshua first, others second, and yourself third. J, Joshua. O, others. Yourself third. I can't read all that so fast. It comes off the screen. I don't understand how all this works because I don't know the tricks. But look, the Bible has always existed. It was never created. It was never written. It has existed from before time was created. There is no time in God. God doesn't live or exist inside of time. God is no first. There's no first, second, or third with God. That's just something that we're given to help us. Well, it probably keep God. You don't need to learn about God from me because you can ask God. And if you ask God and you're sincere and you're really wanting to learn the truth, the same God that teaches me will teach you. In fact, God has already taught us. The truth about God is in our hearts and in our minds and in our beings, and we hate it, and we hate it, and we hate ourselves. And we show that we hate ourselves by showing anger and hatred to other human beings, if I understand it right. But the problem is we don't have church this way. It's not a one-way thing. Our church has existed forever. But if you come to my church, you participate in it, I will pay you out of what I have, share what I have with you. That's what I have to do. I can't charge you for God. First of all, I have no business teaching you about God unless you're also teaching me about God. What does Christ mean? What does Messiah mean? In English, you have words and you know what they mean. Cow, house, boat. There's not a lot of confusion about what they mean. And so we often have 2 or 3 words for the same idea. And then sometimes we have one idea. We have a difficult language. English is the longest Bible I know because when I was 8, I read the Bible and I compared all. And I don't remember exactly all, but love has a huge, long 3 or 4 page definition. Run has a longer definition than the word run, than the word love. When you start going from language to language, you really get into confusion, especially from English, because we have the Germanic roots and we have the Latin roots. The word sin in Latin doesn't mean exactly to mean in English. So which is correct, the usage we have today of it or its roots? Well, some of those things matter. What about the word okay? Everybody in the world today uses the word okay. In every language, the word okay is used. Almost every language. Now, I don't know exactly that's true because I don't know every language. But I had a friend who knew 137 languages, spoke them fluently, and he told me that okay is used in the whole world. And whatever language they're speaking in, when they want to say that they approve of something or that it's right or good, they'll say okay. And I'll tell you an Italian word that is used in almost the whole world. Everybody in the world knows one Italian word. You guess what it is. Tell me what you think it is. And later I'll tell you what I think it is. See, God doesn't want us to have a dialogue. God wants us to have a conversation. And God doesn't want any of us to know everything. He wants all of us together to know one thing. But he doesn't want us to be friends because we agree with each other. He doesn't want one person telling everybody else what's what. He doesn't want up, top, down. He wants bottom up. He doesn't want me getting paid money to tell you about God. That's terrible, especially if you don't have any money at all. Well, we don't have any other system. Well, we do. We have other systems, but we always go to a system where one person is a king and the rest of the people are fools. Well, I've got to stop. I haven't had my breakfast. I need to rest. I'm sick. I might be dying. I am dying. We're all dying, except Enoch didn't die. And I would like to be like Enoch. If I can't be like Enoch, I like to be like Abraham. So I'm going to ask God, dear God, give me 138 years plus and help me to understand what Abraham understood about you, and help me understand what Noah understood about you, and help me understand what Isaac understood about you, and Jacob, and others. Help me understand about you, your truth about you, instead of my truth and that of humans. So I've seen up to 3 people watching this, and I don't know who they are. I don't know how to tell. I hope that when I'm done, my other sites, one of them is poorfortrump@gmail.com. If you email an email to that, I think that in order for this country to be preserved for some time in the future, poor, black, conservative grandmothers, we need to put them in Congress, and they need to be Republicans. We need to have many black persons leave the Democratic Party and register in the Republican Party. We need to take half the Republicans now who are in there, who are really Democrats and they're pretending to be Republicans, like Bloomberg was a good example. We need to throw them out of the party, or we need to identify who they are, so that real God Republicans and the new blacks who will come to the party will difference between them. And so we as Republicans can do what the Democrats have been doing for 300 years. In the past, we, for 300 years in the future, can, until time ends, we can improve the world, ameliorate things, solve the problems, the way we started solving them in 1850 when we began forming the Republican Party, for the purpose of ending the oppression of persons who didn't have white skin by people who did have white skin. But not just every white person, because many white people didn't believe in any of those things. They hated them, abhorred them, and they started the Republican Party, and they caused it to exist. And we put Lincoln in to end slavery, and the Democratic Party started the Civil War. And then we won, and for about 12 or 15 years, the Republican Party did things to improve the lives of black people. But we didn't call them black people. We called them persons of color, because it wasn't just, we're all persons of color. There's no white person and there's no black person. But I'll only explain the rest of that to my friends. My friend, come be my friend, or be my friend on the internet. And when I really know you're really my friend, I will show you how to get $1 million. And I'll show you how to have the problems in your life solved. And I'll show you how to be at rest. And I'll show you how to have joy and happiness. Fix up my popcorn machine and I'll give it to you. I shouldn't like to do that because popcorn is a poisonous food. But I'll do it because you think it's not. I don't mean snot, I mean not. Is not. I don't mean snot, but I mean is not. But popcorn is a poisonous food. Dear God, is there some way we could use that popcorn machine to make grain that is not a poison? Would you show us how? Show me how? And I have a cotton candy machine. Now, cotton candy is an absolute poison, but I have 2 of them. And if I can get some people to help me, we can we can clean my apartment out the way I want it cleaned out, not the way you want it cleaned out, and set up so we can make cotton candy and make popcorn and give it out free to whoever wants it. It comes and gets it. Give it to people far away that want it. How we get it to you, that's another issue. But we have solutions. We have real solutions in our church. The name of the church is And Yaws Church. I'll spell it. ENDYAWS. I'm going to start this again. Let me spell it to you slowly so you can write it down. Get a pencil ready. Get a paper ready. Be ready to write it down. First of all you need to do is put on the internet hashtag. I don't know how to do that, but I think hashtag And Yaws. ENDYAWS. Then put down our church email. NDYAWS CHURCH @gmail.com. andyawschurch@gmail.com. To learn about what Yaws is, send an email to, follow me, let's end yaws @gmail.com. That's LETSENDYAWS @gmail.com. Let's end yaws @gmail.com. If you send an email to that, you'll get an automatic reply. Go ahead, mission, but the information that teaches you what yaws is and why it is. And the question is, how is it you never heard of yaws? How could that be possible if the world is so good and so wonderful? And if your church is so good, and if what you know is true, why don't you know that? The things you're telling me that are important, they're not important. But the fact that the disease yaws exists on the earth is important. Now, I've got to stop because otherwise I'm going to get a cold. I got to drink and I got to do things. I've been up since 5 a.m. and now it's late, maybe what time it is. But I got to rest and do things. But please read the description and go to the go through to find the other things. Now, if you go to YouTube and you put in the address poorfortrump@gmail.com, that's POORFORTRUMP@gmail.com, you'll see about 2 or 3, 4 years, maybe. Hopefully you'll see videos I've made years ago going through the process. Charge me to help Trump win, not because we wanted Trump to win, but because we wanted to open the door so that we could put a really, actual, genuinely poor person in the White House and put 30 poor black grandmothers in Congress and pull the rug out from under the Democrats, who are a bunch of white racist pigs, in our opinion. We could be wrong, but we don't think we're wrong. So you go to poorfortrump@gmail.com. You put that in YouTube and you'll see our videos. If you don't put the whole thing in, you won't see our videos because they will hide them down underneath because they don't want you to know about us. And the truth is, we don't want them to know about us either. We're going to do this offline. We're going to do this not under any of these conspiracies. We're going to do poor person working together with poor person, working class people working together with each other in small groups. We're going to do it all over the United States. And if God would have God's way, the next president, whether this Trump goes for 8 years and then that's the next president, or whether he goes for less than 4 years or 4 years, that the next president will be a poor person, a common person, who isn't in it for the money, who isn't in it for the fame, who's in it because they want to see us have a nation that's just and kind and has laws and enforces the laws, where everybody who's in this land, who belongs here, who should be here, is able to prosper and do well. And then instead of having other people wanting to come here to prosper, let them learn what we do so that we prosper and do well. And let them do that in their country. We don't have to have someone else be poor in order for us to the Democratic Party platform. And the Democrats have more wealthy people in it than the Republicans do. The Republicans are not trying to get people, make the government favor the rich. They want everyone to be as rich as possibly they can be and to do what they want to do as much as they can do. And they don't want people killing each other when they're babies and getting high on pot. That's what we don't want. I don't want that. And I won't help anyone who wants those two things or is driving us towards a place where those two things are supreme. The Bible talks about the false god Molech, and that the people who worshiped it burned their babies and went to high places. And most places in the Christian world, the church wants to be in the highest place. But that's not a church that represents Jesus. Because when Jesus came, he wanted to be in the lowest place. And Jesus is a Jew, a Christian, and a Muslim. I can teach you more about the Muslim religion in the Bible than you'll ever learn about it in the Quran or from anyone who's charging you money to teach you about how to be a Muslim. So I'm going to stop. Now, Poor for Trump at POORFORTRUML.com. Put that in YouTube. And then End Yours Church. Send an email to Poor for Trump and to End Yours Church and get an audible reply. Then go and put in an email to Let's End Yours and get a response. Teach you about yours. Then go to registertovolunteer@gmail.com and you'll get an auto reply and it'll lead you to where to go and you can register. But I can't do this alone. I can only do it with just two of us. Will you be the second person who helps me? The first, can we do this together, two of us together? With Jesus, with God, with Yeshua, with Moses, with Abraham, with Mohammed. Can we fix things, ameliorate the problem instead of making another problem? And I don't have any money, but I'm going to give all the money I have to the person who helps me. I know where there's millions and millions of dollars. And if I find 12 persons who will be my students, who will learn what I understand and teach me what they understand, so we all learn from each other, then I will reveal to them, all of us together, where there's millions of dollars that I know are hidden. They're hidden in plain view. And we know how to create wealth. And God shows us how to do it. But if we create wealth for ourselves for the wrong reasons, the devil will end up with the wealth. And if we create the wealth, if we let God create the wealth through us for the right reasons, wow, we'll all be very happy that it happened. And none of us will really get anything out of it, but we will all get a lot of joy and satisfaction. And we will have long, happy, healthy lives. Honor, which is the first commandment with a promise. It's not the first commandment, it's the fifth. But it's the only one that has a promise. The problem is nobody can honor their father and mother today in this world because people do not know what the word honor means. You don't know what it means. Tell me what the word honor means. And you'll say respect. And then I'll say, okay, what does respect mean? And then you'll think a while, and the only thing you'll come up with is honor. And then you'll come up with lots of things, but you still won't understand what it means because your human beings have a difficult time understanding God's concepts. That's why we so often go after lies and follow lies. All right. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you. But this will only work is if you look and read and explore the things we have and join us and help us. I'll do this. I'll help you. If you help me, I want to help Jesus. I want Jesus to help me. I need your help. I'm in a wheelchair. I don't have a lot. All my friends, most of them are focused. They're concerned about themselves. They'll help others if it's going to benefit them. Well, if I and you are in a fight, I want you to win the fight. I don't want to win the fight. I want God to win the fight. Because God is true. God loves you. God appreciates you. And I love you. Well, you're not to teach me anything that you don't know what you're talking about. You're using words that you never even looked them up in a dictionary. And if you did, you didn't know how to tell which definition is the current meaning of the word, which one was used 50 years ago and 100 years ago in the English language. You don't know the Hebrew word of Jews. You don't know where the word Judaism comes from. You don't know a lot of things that before you start talking about them, you should know. And if we both knew them, why would I want to go to Jew Watch? I don't need a watch. I have plenty of watches. I don't need to go to a Jew for a watch. Why should I go there? What makes you think that Jew Watch is good? What are you trying to do? Get paid? Make money? Feel important? You have a great need because you don't feel like you're very important. Well, what's a website? Is that where spiders live? Instead of going to a website, how do you know if anything you see on a computer is true? How do you know? You don't know. Tell me the other side of the story. Tell me the side of the story that you don't know about. And have a discussion with yourself. And use your own brain to figure out that neither of them is correct 100% and neither of them is incorrect 100%. Everybody's correct about something they say or do or know, and everybody's wrong about something. So what makes you think that you're completely right and you're not? Why are you worried about teaching me when you should be worried about learning from me so I can learn from you? I can't learn from you because you're not teaching me something that you know or that you learned from God. You're trying to teach me something that someone else told you, and they did it because they made money off of you. Well, what is the Talmud? What does the word think mean? How do you know what I think? How do you know what I think? You don't know what I think, and not because you couldn't know, but because you're doing everything based on common. That's not what you think, that if you agree with someone else, then you're their friend and they're your friend. And you're a poor slob of a human being, and so am I. We have absolutely nothing. You're spending your time, well, you can see me, and I don't want to see you. I don't have to see you. For all I know, you could be a computer or not. I don't know anything except what I've wanted to learn in my life. That's because you're stupid. You think the Bible is fiction. But you don't know you're stupid. You're just like a worm. A worm knows more about God and the Bible than you do. A worm knows what its purpose of it is in life. You don't even know what your purpose is. You don't know why you're here. And if there isn't, I'll tell you this. It's possible there is no God at all. But if there's no God, I've been very happy in my life following the happiest. You're absolutely miserable. You wake up miserable. You go to bed miserable. You have little points of joy that you think are joy, and they're not joy because you don't even know what joy is. And you couldn't tell me what they are. If you spent your whole life reading the Bible, you'd never understand it because you can't understand the Bible unless you understand the Bible first before you start reading it. And that's what do you call it? Well, Satan is your king and Bible is your fiction. But I'm going to tell you something. If you don't repent of your thinking, you're going to stand in front of God. And you're going to condemn yourself in front of God. And you're going to judge yourself. And you'll have no way to solve that problem at that point. It'd be smarter for you to judge yourself now, wisely and correctly, and enjoy the party. Well, of course you spit in God's face. Satan is your God. And he's going to rule over you and torment you and torment you. And you know what? You're not going to be able to say, no one warned me. No one told me. You're not going to be able to say that because you are being warned right now. You're being told. It's very simple. Open your mouth and say, dear God, I humble myself before you and ask you to teach me your truth. And then you won't need me to teach you anything, and you won't need to teach me anything, but you will have anytime you want someone who you can compare notes with, who will show you what they understand, and you show them what you understand. And I'll tell you this. When I was 11, I read the Bible a second time, and I asked God to explain it to me. And God explained it to me. And we had a party, God and I and angels. We had a party. And it was a wonderful party. And then I read the whole Bible again. It took me 70 hours, but I did it in a few days. And I cried and I laughed and I was drunk and I was high and I was happy and I was filled with goodness of God, which you don't know anything about. Because the only goodness you know about is the goodness of Satan. And which is no goodness in Satan. There's nothing good in Satan. Well, God will say, go ahead, enjoy yourself. But God doesn't want you to do that because the purpose of your life and my life is to allow God to help us. So God can have the pleasure of helping us. That's the only thing the Creator God wants to do, is to give you a wonderful, happy life with purpose and meaning and satisfaction. And Satan, the word Satan, is a Hebrew word. It's a Jewish word. It means our enemy. That's what it means. I know Hebrew. I'm no expert in it. I didn't get a bar mitzvah, but I know that Satan means our enemy. And you're a fool. In the same sentence, you use the word enemy, and you act like the Jews are your enemy. Well, that's because you worship Satan. If you didn't worship Satan, it wouldn't be. And every human being is born worshiping Satan, with Satan as their father. You are a child of Satan, the enemy of God, and you enjoy it. But you do terrible things. You do horrible things. You do things that you think are wrong, and you can't control yourself. So you, instead of trying to change what you do, you change what you think is wrong. And you want to drink a child's blood? Well, so it's okay. You are not happy. And you know what the word blessed means? It means to be happy. And you know what the word means to be sad. And you're not cursed because God hates you. You're cursed because you hate yourself. And you hate yourself because your God, the false god Satan, wants you to hate yourself so you'll be miserable. So, and you want to say things to shock people, but you don't know what you're talking about. All right. What does the word yaws mean? What does the disease yaws mean? Where is the disease? Why is it? What does moringa mean? What does mob grazing mean? What is a quark? Do you know what a quark is? Now, I never met Einstein, but I had a scoutmaster And he was one of Einstein's students. He had Einstein as his teacher. So I know a lot about Einstein. Jesus was never created. Jesus is the voice of God that manifested itself once as a child of God in human form. But Adam is an image of Jesus. You look in a mirror, you see an image. It's reverse. Adam was created for God to give Adam happiness and fill Adam with a wonderful life. That's what Adam was, that person. But I could be wrong. But I'm not going on a dream I had. And they got those imaginations from demons, who are Satan's fallen angels. You don't know what the word angel. Explain to me how words come to exist in our language. Don't explain it to me. Explain it to yourself. Find out who you are and decide what you want to do. Do you want to be, or do you want to be sad? Do you want to believe in something that helps you and makes you feel better in life? Or do you want to believe in something that makes you feel worse? I'll tell you, the older you get, the harder it's going to get to be. Till you can't walk, and all you can do is die. Now, Stephen Hawking was a genius, supposedly. He's in hell. He was in hell and he was 12 years old. I never met him. I was born in 50. He died in the same room with him. But I don't know. I was in the room where Miss Renton got her. I'm going to guess that Mr. Rockefeller would have been there because she knew Mr. Rockefeller for 20, 30 years personally, very well. She wasn't important, but Rockefeller had to have appreciated her. Anyway, now I'm going to stop because I'm going to get sick if I don't stop. I got to do things, and I'm going to try and come back. I don't know how to do this, God. I don't know how to cause this to happen. But let us do this. There's too many persons who are worshiping Satan. They think they're Christians, and they might be, and I might be wrong. But thank you, Jesus, for Jack and for Bucky. Thank you for the children in Ohio and the children in Pennsylvania who are now all grown-up adults. Thank you for any person in my life you ever let me make them laugh, but with a belly laugh. Thank you for it, Jesus. I pray for every single one of them. I ask you to, I waive all the vast numbers of persons you've had interact with me in my life. Thank you for the persons who knew me and that I didn't even know knew me. And Daddy, please let all the things be safe that are in Pennsylvania. Don't let it be that Satan got them all. Let them be that you miraculously preserve them. And now show us what to do. I have a fortune. I can't use it for myself. I can't give it to anyone. It's yours, but I don't know how to manage it for you, and I need help to do that. I need your help, not the help of human beings, the help of you. Otherwise, I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm going to do what you show me to do, if you show me. And if not, I won't do anything. Wait. Give me 138 years on this life, not because I want it, but because you want it. And give me more than that. Let me be like Enoch so I don't have to die. If I can be like Enoch, maybe I can't. Teach me your truth, God. Teach me your truth, not my truth, not other people's truth, not about you, but teach me what you want me to know about you. And thank you. Be glorified, Jesus. Be glorified. Father God, let Jesus be glorified. Thank you for glorifying Jesus the way you did. And help us to write some good jokes and make people laugh. Let me write some jokes and make you laugh, God. That would be the greatest joy, to say things and do things and have you, Jesus, and God have a party that we can have with you. No alcohol, no tobacco, no drugs, no getting high from artificial means. Let us get high by learning things from you, God. Let that be what we enjoy, and let it motivate us to learn more and more about you. And knowing the truth isn't good enough. We got to be able to have you help us to use it till other people benefit, so everyone benefits, and so that we can be the last one, not the first one. That's my prayer. And help us end this disease, yours. Help us help the people who are in poverty. I want to be the richest, no, God, I want to be the poorest man that lives on the earth. Myself poorer than the poorest persons, but by lifting every single other person up, having you lift every is the poorest. But I'm very poor because are all being controlled by Satan. They're being influenced by Satan. They're Satan's goal. And I want what we do to accomplish your goal. And I know what your goal is because I know you. And your goal is not to be my master, my Lord, my boss, but your goal is for me to recognize you as my friend. Really, really, really as that. Thank you, Jesus. Praise you, Jesus. Praise you, Jesus. We praise you. I'm going to stop now. I'm going to come back on when I praise you, Jesus. And hopefully something will happen. Thank you for teaching me today, last night, that we pray the tongues that you gave to the church. Crazy. That's considered psychotic. If anyone has seen this afterwards, if you're looking at this, come help me. Let me help by giving to me help so that we can lift everyone else up above us. So we can be the